Now, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, Dr. Kerry Millihan. Kerry is a sleep scientist currently working in the sleep unit at the Royal Prince Alfred Hospital and also teaching sleep medicine at the University of Sydney. She's been a sleep scientist for more than 20 years, working in sleep clinics, and has been involved in lots of different research studies in sleep. Welcome, Kerry.
Fabulous. Thank you, Alicia. So what I'm going to be talking about today is obviously sleep. Now, I'm not an expert in myeloma, but I do know a fair bit about sleep. And from what I understand, there is a lot of issues regarding the influence of medications onto sleep when there's myeloma involved. So I'm going to have 3 different sections in this talk. So the first one is about the function of sleep and a bit of the sleep basics. Then I'm going to cover good sleep habits, which everybody should follow. And then I'm going to give you some ideas of what to do if sleep is a bit of an issue for you. Okay, so, and all of those things, all of those recommendations, some might work, some might not. So we just need to work out which one is going to be the right for you. Okay, so we'll start off with sleep. And the first thing I'd like to explain is about what happens when we go off to sleep. Sleep isn't just an on-off switch. There's actually a lot of things that happen during sleep. And there's different sleep stages that we go through during the night. So this is a representation of the different sleep stages across the 8-hour period. So stage N1, called non-REM sleep. Stage 1 is like, you know, when you're just sort of dozing off and you're just falling asleep in front of the telly or just dozing off. That really light sleep is called stage N1 sleep. Stage 2 sleep is sort of your garden variety sleep, the sleep you have when you're not having the other sorts of sleep. Stage 3 is the deep sleep. That's where if somebody wakes you up, you're a bit dopey and you might not wake up quite so quickly and that sort of thing. And stage REM sleep is where the majority of your dreams happen. So your brain is actually really quite active. There's a lot of thought processes happening, and your breathing goes a little bit different during REM sleep than it does in the other stages, just fast and slow and whatnot. So REM is actually quite an active time compared to the other stages of sleep. So we rotate between those stages across the night, where a lot of the deep sleep, the stage 3 sleep, happens towards the beginning of the night, and more of the REM sleep happens towards the other end of the night when you're waking up from sleep. So the question of why do we sleep is actually a really big question, and there's actually loads of reasons why we sleep, and we are always finding out new things that happen during sleep, different functions and whatnot. So as one of the famous researchers said, if sleep wasn't important to our development, our growth and our maintenance of health, why do we devote so much time to it? Obviously, it is an important thing to maintain health and our function. So I'll go through a couple of those. I've got 7 different reasons why we sleep. The first thing is that we organize information during sleep. So during the day, you receive a load of information. You have experiences, you receive information about all sorts of stuff. So during the night, the brain processes that and it puts the information into various little sections into your brain to make sure that it's all organized, ready to retrieve next time. Reason number 2 is in following on from this, it embeds memories. So if we experience something tonight we're going to be embedding that memory. How these memories work is it depends on what sleep stage and what type of memory it is. Okay, so if we have something that's fun today, we experience something fun, someone made you laugh, or indeed you had some sort of unhappy experience today, those things are going to be embedded through the REM sleep. So we process those in REM sleep to be able to retrieve them later. We also, if we see something nice or whatever we see, that gets processed during REM sleep as well. If we learned something today, like you learned how to play the piano or to fix something on your car, or you learned a particular procedure, that gets processed during the non-REM stages of sleep. So you can see that we do need both of those types of sleep to be able to embed the memories properly. If you've ever seen the movie called Inside Out, This actually portrays this concept really, really well. And if you have not seen this movie, I highly recommend it. You can do that for homework. Go and watch the movie called Inside Out. It explains the process of embedding memories in sleep really, really well. I was so impressed and so excited when I watched this movie as a sleep scientist. Number 3 reason why we sleep, regulates hormone release. So there's a whole bunch of hormones that get released during sleep. So the first one's like growth hormone. Okay, so growth hormone gets released during the deepest stages of sleep in the beginning of the night. And if you think of a teenager going through puberty, they're having a lot of growth hormone. So teenagers actually need a load of sleep, a load of this particular stage of sleep so that the growth hormone can be released and processed properly. So you'll find that teenagers do have a really long sleep period, and they are biologically programmed to sleep a little bit later. So when your teenager wants to sleep in during the morning, then probably it's due to normal sleep physiology, and we want to be able to let them do that because the growth hormone is being released. Testosterone is also released during sleep as well. So if there's interrupted sleep, testosterone may be affected. We've also got cortisol, which is released during the day and which drops off at night, but it is released just as we're waking up in the morning. Our melatonin is released before we go to sleep, and then that helps us go off to sleep. Reason number 4 is one of the newer things that we're finding out about sleep is that it removes brain waste. So everything that we do in our body, we use glucose to be able to provide us energy. We use all sorts of energy products for things to work in our bodies. The same for our brain. Okay, so the brain takes in glucose, it uses that glucose to be able to make the brain function, to do all of the things it needs to do. And part of what happens with that is it produces waste. It uses up what it likes, and then there's these waste products afterwards. So what happens at night is that it gets cleaned up. So there's these little buildup of waste products called beta amyloid proteins. They're those little white things that's wrapped around this neuron. So what happens is during sleep, the brain just shrinks by a tiny little bit, and all this fluid comes in and it washes all of these little beta amyloids away. So it's like coming through with a hose, and it washes all of that waste product away. So in the morning, you wake up fresh, it's gotten rid of all of those waste products. Sleep also maintains sexual function. So during REM sleep, one of the normal physiologies is that men have erections. Women also do, but it's harder to document and notice. But men have erections during REM sleep. Thus my mention about morning glory in the morning. This is when REM happens, might wake up with an erection. So one of the theories with this is a kind of use it or lose it kind of thing. We make sure that the erection is going to work during the day. Reason number 6, that it also allows for uninhibited information processing. So what happens during sleep is there's the frontal lobe at the front of your brain just goes offline. That goes offline, and it's not quite working as well as it does during the day. Now, what the frontal lobe does is it holds all of your inhibitions and your logic. Okay, it makes you behave as you should in society. That's where all of the rules and the procedures and the you knowing what you're supposed to do to be a good citizen and behaving yourself. What happens at night is that brain goes to sleep. And so your brain now has some freedoms to think about things in a non-inhibited way. And this can be a good thing and a not so good thing. So some of the good things are, if you go to sleep with a problem, your brain can then at night process that problem and come up with some interesting solutions that you wouldn't have thought of during the day, because all of those other embedded societal enforced rules place on you. So many a time, and many a researcher has there been an occasion where people say, sleep on it, or I woke up with an idea, or I thought about it during sleep. And that's the reason why this frontal lobe goes off to sleep, and you can come up with new ideas. So there's a lot of artists come up with great ideas for new artworks and all sorts of stuff happen during this stage, during sleep. One of the bad things is that if you have a problem and you are ruminating with it overnight, it can feel a lot worse during the night than it does during the day. And that's because your logic has gone off to sleep and is no longer involved. And the things that say, no, actually, it's not that bad. But during the night, it can feel really bad because of this frontal lobe going off to sleep. So this allows some of those memories and information processing to happen. It thinks about this in a non-inhibited way to be able to process that information. And reason number 7, which should be number 7, is sleep maintains our immune system. So, you know, when you're sick, you feel like you need to sleep. And one of the basic nursing principles is when you're sick, have some sleep. And there is a lot of science behind this. During sleep, there is a lot of cytokines being produced and released during sleep, and they help with the immune function. And there's some antibodies that are released during sleep as well that will go out and sort out some injuries and rejuvenate some of the cells that might be broken or anything like that. And there is some research to say that, like, if you had the flu shot, having a good night's sleep that night after you had a flu shot means that the efficacy of that vaccination is improved compared to not sleeping that night before. We don't know anything about how this has affected the COVID vaccination because we weren't in a position to research that, but we know that from a pre-COVID flu shot, there is an improvement in the efficacy of that vaccine if you sleep better that night, if you have a full night's sleep. Okay, so there's our summary, really quick guide to why we sleep. We organize information, we embed memories, we regulate the hormones, we remove the brain waste, we maintain the sexual function, and we maintain immune function as well. Now, what is normal sleep? Okay, now, normal sleep, we know what normal sleep is, right? So if you think about what normal sleep is, but culture actually has a huge impact on what you believe normal sleep is. So it's only in the last couple of 100 years where we've started to share a bed. We used to sleep in a big open environment. Everybody slept in the same room kind of thing. We might sleep here and sleep there during the day. The 8-hour sleep is actually a reasonably new idea as we look at it in history. Our age obviously affects what's normal sleep as well. So for a baby, what's normal is different than a middle-aged person, different than an elderly person. So recognizing that these things influence your sleep can be really important for knowing what's kind of normal and what's not as normal as others. So what I wanted to talk about here is modern sleep versus pre-industrial sleep. So imagine the world pre-industrial revolution, okay? So we didn't necessarily have these 8-hour periods of work or 12-hour periods of work, whatever we do. What we expect now is that we sleep at nighttime and we are awake during the day. This is not necessarily how we've always slept. There's some examples and information in the older literature, in prayer books and old literature and art and all sorts of things that refer to first sleep and second sleep. So segmented sleep is something that happened that we've got documentation for in the Middle Ages in Europe, for example. So some places will have a first sleep at night and then have a second sleep in the afternoon, like a siesta. Other places, we have 2 periods of sleep with a waking period in the middle. So there's prayer books that say, this is a prayer for the wake periods between the first sleep and the second sleep. There's artworks that refer to this. And waking up in the middle of the night was considered an incredibly normal thing to do. So you might get up and tend to the animals, you might just say good day to your neighbor, you might go and do something in the house, some housework, that sort of thing. It was incredibly normal in this particular period of time to have 2 cycles of sleep. and there might be some more sleep during the day as well. So what I'm trying to get across here is that we have this modern construct that we sleep in 8 hours, we are awake for the rest of the day. It's not always been like that. The daytime siestas are pretty common in a lot of cultures, and they're part of normal sleep as well. Not necessarily normal everywhere, but they are in some cultures. Now, I showed you the hypnogram before of a middle-aged adult and their different sleep stages. So there's actually expected changes in this as we age. As we age, there's more awake periods during the night. So where there's no color in here is where we are awake. And so the periods awake as we get older increase. So we never sleep as good as we did when we were 20. As we age, our sleep is also going to be not as good as it was when we were younger. So normal sleep, according to culture, it does have a lot of influence from that culture. The sharing a bed, whether it's sharing a bed with your partner or with your pet, or indeed with your children, there's a lot of influences going on there. Okay, and around about 25% of Australians do share with their pet, according to a research study. So why do we need to know about this? So the cultural influence is actually, it changes what our expectation of normal sleep is. And if we can sort of change what the expectation is, then it you may not experience poor sleep as badly. Waking up in the middle of the night for an hour or more has been considered completely normal in times past. When we do a sleep study in a sleep lab, we expect about 86% of the night being asleep. We would expect you to be awake around about 14% of the night, and that's pretty normal, okay? So sleep, mood, and pain are all incredibly integrated. So when we go to sleep, we need to sort of turn down our receptors to influences such as noise and such like. But we also need to know if our house is on fire. So we need to have some level of receiving input. So we do still receive information about being uncomfortable, being in pain, that sort of thing. And this is highly involved in the sleep cycle, and they can influence each other. It's quite a complex interaction. So I'm just going to cover 9 good sleep habits that everybody should follow, okay? So regular wake-up time. Regular wake-up time is way more important than a regular bedtime. The reason being is that the light will come into your brain, go through your eyes to the sensor at the back of your head that says now is the time to be awake. So if you do that every day, including days where you're not working and don't have any commitments, this is key. We should all be waking up at the same time. Create a comfortable sleeping environment. So invest in whatever it is that makes you comfortable, okay? Highly recommended. The only thing you should do in bed is to sleep and have sex if you like. That's okay. But that's the only things that happen in bed, nothing else. Respect sleep, but not too much. Don't obsess about it. You've got to respect your own sleep. Sleep is part of the 3 good things we need to do with to maintain health: exercise, nutrition, and sleep. Okay, you need to allocate appropriate time for sleep, but don't put too much pressure on it. It's you're counterproductive if you are trying to sleep too much. You also need to respect other people's sleep as much as they respect yours, and teach other people to respect your sleep, because you'll be affected by your family, by the neighbors, all sorts of things that affect your sleep. And your sleep's important. So make sure that you respect yours, other people respect it, and you respect theirs. And we need to talk to our children about that they need to learn to sleep to help them learn and play. So if we embed that in our children when they are young to maintain good sleep habits, then that's going to be really useful for them later in life. Schedule wind down time. So we need a bit of time for our heart rate to reduce, our cortisol to reduce, all of those sorts of things. Whatever it is for you, whether it's watching old episodes of Big Bang Theory on Netflix or whatever it is, just have some time before you go to bed just to chill out for a bit. Don't do running around and then try to go to sleep. It's not going to work, okay? If you want to listen to some music or do whatever, that's fine. But schedule some wind down time before going off to sleep. Avoid caffeine in the second half of the day. So caffeine's half-life is about 5 to 6 hours. So if you have a coffee at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, about half of that's still going to be active when you try and go to bed at like 9 o'clock, if you were to go into bed at 9 o'clock. So avoid caffeine in the second half of the day. There is some individual differences in this. Some people do not find that caffeine affects them, and that's okay. They can have a coffee and not affect them. That's fine. But if you're somebody who is affected by caffeine and that it wakes you up, then avoid it in the second part of the day. Have an open discussion with your bed partner about rules regarding to sleep. It's like a little battleground in sleep. Each person, if you're sharing a bed with somebody, each person has their own beliefs about things, whether you should have the windows open or closed, whether the curtains open or closed, whether you allow the pets in the bed or not, the times that you get up and get out of bed, is the bed big enough for you, all of you? So this is one of the things that if open discussions about what likes and dislikes you have to try and maintain both of your sleep. And remember that sharing a bed is actually a relatively new phenomena in human history. We didn't used to do this. It's only been the last 200 years, or give or take, that we have been sharing bedding. So our blankets used to be our own, and we would share in a communal environment. And it's once we've started to share a bed and resource sharing, that's where these issues have started to come up. Don't watch the clock. Don't have any clocks in your room. If it's dark, you should be sleeping. That's it. The only clock that you might have is have an alarm on it if you need an alarm to get up at a certain time, but do not watch the clock overnight. And number 9 is limit alcohol intake. So what alcohol will do is it will reduce the time that it takes to go to sleep, but it will interrupt the second half of your night. So it will cause you to wake up a lot more during the night. Okay, so moving on to some suggestions to those who have difficulty sleeping. And as I said, everybody's different. Some will work for some and not for others. So the aim is to reduce your anxiety about bedtime and reduce the amount of wake time in sleep. So for some people, going to bed, it can be a cue for distress and frustration in falling asleep. We want to get rid of that anxiety because that's counterproductive. So we aim to get rid of that so we can improve sleep. Okay, so Zeitgebers are cues to go off to sleep. So if you can utilize these cues to go off to sleep, then that's a fantastic option. So with showers, if you warm yourself up, falling off to sleep involves a slight fall in body temperature. So if you have a nice warm shower beforehand and try and catch that downward drift as the temperature comes down again, then catch that. If you have just a regular, a once a day, no caffeine drink before you go to bed, you can use that as a Zeitgeber. Say, now is the time to go to sleep. You'll be amazed at how much the body listens to that. If you want to listen to a podcast, that's okay. There's some podcasts out there that have really nothing going on. The purpose of this podcast here is nothing much happens. All it is somebody reading out a story that doesn't actually go anywhere, so that you can lie down and listen to podcast and listen to it, and it gets so boring that you end up falling off to sleep. My favorite podcast I listen to it and I picture the characters and I fall off to sleep. And it doesn't matter if I don't hear the end, because I know the ending, I know what happens. Okay, so that's my special trait. And going off, having a busy brain is often one of the big things that people complain about. And we need to be able to control this busyness. So anything that works for you. So if it is meditation, yoga, reading a particular book, or prayers, or anything that does it for you, and it doesn't have to be anything particular, to just calm that brain, you'll need to figure out what that is for you. Okay. White noise can be useful as well. There are apps available which just create a bit of a background noise, or in real life as well. So that can help some people as well. As I said, utilize the shower to go to bed, utilize body temperature changes to help you go off to sleep. make sure that if you do use your phone near sleep, reduce the brightness and use the blue light filter. What the phone does is it's shining light straight into your eyes, straight down that track that's sending the information to the back of your brain to tell you that it's awake time. So reduce that and take out the blue light of that as well. There's a 15-minute rule that says if you are awake for longer than 15 minutes, get out of bed and go and do something else. So whether that's folding the washing or just reading a book or something non-stimulating that's not going to get you too involved, and then go back off to bed. Okay, so if you're awake more than 15 minutes, get out of bed, go and do something else until you're tired. And eventually you feel sleepy and go off to bed. If you need to do this multiple times, eventually you'll end up reducing the amount of time in bed being awake, and that's our goal. We need to reduce the amount of entertainment at bedtime, whether that's coming from books or internet or movies. We need to be able to not have that sort of entertainment involved. And we need to be able to control our behavior, whether we're thinking too much, whether we're worrying about processes, which is going to affect our sleep, whether we're checking emails late at night or eating in bed or eating late is going to be affecting things. So we need to control those behaviors as well, which is going to be helping sleep. There are online courses available which you can sign up for and receive help from a insomnia perspective. So all of these ones that I've listed here are well researched, decent, run by good people, organizations. You do need to pay for some of these. So if you are in a position that needing a bit of help, then feel free to use some of those resources there. And that is a very quick run through of sleep and a few hints to help you with your normal sleep and if you're having any difficulties. So thank you.
I have to say, I've been sitting here and just feel in the last half hour I've learned so much about sleep, and I'm a bit embarrassed as a nurse that there was so much, particularly around the physiology, that I wasn't aware of, particularly around the frontal lobe being switched off and how that really affects.
There's a huge amount of physiology involved, and I wish that I could teach more nurses all about this and help our patients in hospital get decent sleep, because it's going to help their recovery and reduce time in hospital and all that sort of stuff. So,
yeah, you don't go to hospital for a good night's sleep. That's
no.
For sure. Now, we do have a question from one of our viewers. So Kate has asked, I have nocturia and have to go to the toilet every hour throughout the night. Is this harmful to my brain?
No, not in a direct way. So, as I said, part of normal sleep in the Middle Ages is that we did wake up in the middle of the night and do stuff. If you are getting enough sleep over a 24-hour period, then that's okay. You know, that's achieving most of the functions that it needs to achieve. If you have like a sleep disorder such as sleep apnea, which is interrupting your sleep every 15 seconds or so, then that can have some effects, and we need to sort that out to prevent any further. But if you're sleeping nicely and then your bladder goes, oh, hang on a bit, I need to sort that out, wakes you up, you go off to sleep, and then you go back up, and then you get up, go to the toilet, come back, go back off to sleep, that's okay, because your sleep is doing what it needs to do during that time. So as long as you get that over a 24-hour period, yeah, you're sweet.
I hope that answered your question, Kate. I guess it ties back quite nicely into what we culturally think of at the moment, you know, in today's society of what is good quality sleep versus actually, you know, what our brain needs.
Yes, absolutely. And yes, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah. No, thank you very much for that, Kerry.